it's not as simple as that the impulse of saying, hey, I'm gonna quit my job, fuck it, because I love doing YouTube. And you only have like 5K in your account, and it's like that's not gonna sustain you for a long time.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode 6 of the Shogunai Life podcast. Today, your host, Kevin, me, the one and only, and Marco Martinez, right? So we kind of wanted to talk today about internet entrepreneurship because that seems to be a pretty hot topic, or at least, that industry has been growing quite a bit over the past few years. Whether it be, making money off of YouTube, Twitch, Instagram.
Does Spotify make money?
No. Spotify
Really?
is usually...
I thought they did.
So, the thing with Spotify is they kind of underpay their artists for streams. Okay. They're just like, hey, we'll give you like a cent for every 1,000 streams or something. And it's like the ultimate we'll pay you with exposure kind of thing. And it's just like, for like a starving artist who's actually trying to make it big, then it's like, sure, like I'll do it. But then for the big top tier artists who are already supported by a label, it's like, sure, I'll take like the extra couple dollars.
Yeah.
Or I guess if you're someone who gets like millions of streams, then it starts to get lucrative.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But going back to what we were saying, like, it's been a year for us since we kind of started this whole idea.
Almost in December, right?
Almost, yeah.
I think I checked, and the first episode was published December 19th, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But obviously, we kind of had kind of plans in motion at the time prior to December. But kind of thinking back from a year ago, thinking about kind of what we've learned, what we've done so far. We're going to kind of talk about, what it's like getting started.
Yeah.
Like what it's like to start making money off of internet entrepreneurship career. And also just kind of things we've learned.
Yeah.
Like through both research and our own experiences. So I guess to start, why do you think why do you think someone would want to even begin starting a podcast like we did?
Yeah, like we did. I think first I'm gonna talk about why we did it. I think we started to just talk about anime in general. We would just talk about it for hours, and so it would be like, hey, why don't we just record this? I think it would be interesting to get these thoughts out. Maybe someone will care. And then on the other side is, I think sometimes work can feel a little bit mundane. It can feel boring, and it can feel like you're kind of stuck somewhere. And then you come to the realization, it's like, what am I doing with my life? And it's like, you see YouTube people and how they have pursued their careers and how they have made it big and how they made it actually their career. And there is a motivational force behind that for your own, personality to be like, why can I do it? And I think that was the whole logic behind starting this. Is like, why shouldn't we do it? Is there anything stopping us? Really, there's nothing stopping the idea. And it's like, all that it takes is setting time aside in your schedule and doing this kind of thing. And I think from watching a lot of videos, the major key to this whole thing to be successful is to be consistent. Which, granted, we haven't been consistent at all.
Right.
But I think that's what we wanted to talk about today. Is like, it takes that to make it
right
to be successful.
Trying to balance that. Trying to balance the needs of you trying to grow this fledgling YouTube channel with your daily responsibilities of the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
Or more accurately, 9 to 8 in our cases.
In your, yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the overtime is nice to help bankroll this endeavor, but it leaves almost no time for essentially working on this, being able to focus on this. But as you said, trying to kind of fit this into your schedule, if you're truly dedicated and passionate about it, is what's important at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
But if we look back, almost a year in, I'd say all things considered, when we consider what we've had to deal with, some of the unexpected happenings we've experienced in 2020, I think we did okay.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
not bad for a first year.
Yeah, if this is our 6th episode, and we did put a goal somewhere that we were going to do at least one podcast per month, that is at least 50% of the goal.
Right.
We are on November 4th today, and I think we still have time to make one more. And that would be a little bit more than half of the goal, which, in the whole grand scheme of things, it's like better than nothing.
Right. And I think we can also consider the fact that we did come out with that one skit at the start.
Yeah.
And also a little bit...
The Katsudon, right?
Yeah, the Katsudon skit. And also consider the little bit of Arknights content we came out with. Which, speaking of which, we are making more.
Yeah.
Or at least that is the plan for now.
Yeah.
So when you consider... and I guess that's the rub here. It was so easy for us to start, So let's talk about accessibility.
Yeah.
Right. When we sat down and really thought about it, I think we both realized that the barrier to entry to just starting is extremely low. Literally, just take your phone. Like when you were doing anime reviews, like if I remember correctly, you just had a webcam and...
Yeah. So back then, So this was a long time ago, but I did start with my phone. Back then I had a S6, I think. But it was just my phone. I had just moved into the apartment. And all these ideas that come into your head is like, oh, I don't have a backdrop that looks nice. I don't have a camera that's cool. I don't have good audio. And I think back then, what I had watched that made me do it, it was this thing called Jump Cut. I don't know if anyone has heard of it, but it did teach me a lot of things, and that's really what the catalyst was to make me start putting my face on camera. Because before that, I was like absolutely terrified about putting myself out on the internet and talking about it.
Right.
I do want to say that I have become a little bit more confident about like speech issues that I used to have. And just the whole expression train of thought within me and how that comes out on camera has changed. But yeah, I did just start with like, I remember back then I also had an iPod and I had a lavalier mic. Just plugged it in to the iPod and then my phone, and that's how I would edit the videos. And back then I had, I think, Sony Vegas, which I think I cracked it. I don't remember. I didn't buy it.
Not sure if that's something you want to admit, but
I think, I'm not sure. I'm not
allegedly,
allegedly, I don't remember if I did it.
Right.
But yeah, it was that easy. It was just putting the effort and the time into making something that was, initially in your head.
Right. Yeah, and then when we first started this podcast, we had pretty standard back
Yeah. Before we get into the podcast, can you talk about your YouTube channel? Like, how did you start?
Oh yeah. So back at the end of high school, I used to play this free to play first person shooter called Combat Arms. Shout out to everyone who remembers that, but. So there were a few content creators for that game back then. Not many, but there were some. It was, all things considered, a fairly popular free-to-play FPS, all things considered. I think that was just an era where there are just these companies trying to copy Counter-Strike.
Oh,
Counter-Strike was still pretty big back then. And to date, one of the most popular free-to-play FPSs in Asia is, oh man, I forgot what it was called, but there is one it's still active to this day. I'll have to look it up, and we can add it to the screen when we find out.
Okay.
But long story short, I started making content for this game, for Combat Arms, and at the time, my computer was not good enough at all to record both the footage and to do to record to actually get good gameplay. But at the same time, I had no mic. So what I ended up doing was I would record gameplay and do this was like the peak of post gameplay commentary, where you'd record gameplay and then you'd commentate over it.
Voiceover.
Right.
Okay.
You and the thing is, you wouldn't even talk about the gameplay itself. You just talk about random topics.
Really?
Sometimes it'd be about the game. Sometimes it'd be like just about yourself. Sometimes it'd just be some other random topic that had absolutely no relation to the gameplay. So it wasn't quite as. I think that's still a thing to this date, but I think that's been taken over mostly by Twitch streaming now. Right? Because when you watch a Twitch streamer, you're not necessarily there for their gameplay. Sometimes you are, but you're also there for the personality.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, so back then it was super easy to kind of just get started. And I actually had a decent following, about, at the time, 100 subscribers was about high. It was pretty high for what I was doing and for the frequency that I was uploading. I was uploading mostly like gun guides, like saying like, hey, comparing this gun to this gun, or saying like, this is why you should use this equipment over this one. You know, you see a decent amount of that in, like, say, Call of Duty nowadays, but it was kind of a niche that hadn't been filled back then. Now, unfortunately for me, I had to stop making YouTube videos because, well, obviously back then it also wasn't as widely accepted a career path. I can already imagine trying to convince my parents that, hey, I'm going to drop out of school
and get onto YouTube,
and try to ride this YouTube wave that doesn't necessarily exist yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I feel if I had actually taken the time to try to grow my channel and be more consistent with it, I probably would still have a fairly big following, like, to this day.
Yeah, but, and imagine you would have moved on to other FPS games.
Right, too, exactly. Right? Like, I imagine, people would have ended up staying mostly for either my own gameplay or for me, Yeah. But, with thinking back on it, I also didn't have the drive, because trying to balance, and this goes back to what we were saying before, but trying to balance your real life responsibilities with this hobby of yours, it's like at some point, either if you can't do both, it's almost like you have to choose one or the other. So I ended up taking the safer path, which was going through school, getting a job, and taking kind of the sure bet.
Yeah.
The sure bet in terms of money.
Recently I watched this video that there's this guy who quit his job and went onto YouTube, and I think the first day that he quit, he said he made $5 that day on YouTube, which, I mean, that's freaking awesome. I wish we would look at the studio app and say, hey, you earned a cent, that would be awesome. But and I think that there's like you said in the notes, it's like there's an allure to pursuing a passion of yours and making money out of it, and how much more cooler your life would be if you had to just dedicate your time wholeheartedly to this thing that you love. And at the same time, it was like a sustainable thing to live on. That's super cool. But yeah, going back to the guy that I was talking about, he quit $5 that day on YouTube, and but the one key that he said, he was like, what I did was like I saved $90,000, which that's a large amount of money, and then I quit. Which speaks about having a strategy to pursuing this thing. It's not as simple as that the impulse of saying, "Hey, I'm gonna quit my job, fuck it," because I love doing YouTube, and you only have like 5K in your account, and it's like that's not gonna sustain you for a long time. It is. I think it's way smarter, like the way this guy did. I don't think I would do 90,000. Maybe I would. I think I can live with like 20, 30K.
Step 1, have a 6-figure job.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what he said. Like and then there's this whole other side. It's like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it that you're gonna be willing to go back to living with your parents and live in their basement? How are you willing to live with a roommate, pay less for rent? Are you willing to eat beans and rice?
Let's consider the fact, right? Let's consider the fact that we both have jobs that are very secure, incredibly secure. We would have to have about 10 IQ to be fired from this job. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So we have that steady income that we know we can rely on.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, why would we leave that to pursue a job? Trying to make content, right?
But then it's the thing. Do you like what you do?
Right.
At least, okay. So I'm gonna let Kevin say, do you like what you do? I mean, it's fine if you do it. There's no.
I guess if I really had to think about it from a broader perspective, I think it's more I like the people I work with.
Okay.
If I didn't like the people I worked with, then no. Then I would just say, like, I just do this purely to sustain myself.
Yeah.
Purely to pay the bills. Purely to, like, bankroll whatever hobbies I have in life. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, just a little bit of context. I used to work with Kevin. We worked at the same company now, but I quit one time and I came back. The reason why I quit first was because I did feel like I hated the job. I hated the job. I was like with this huge feeling of being stuck. And that was around the same time when I started that YouTube channel and the anime reviews and stuff. Fast forward now, if you ask me if I like my job, I will be like, sure. It's more like I don't mind my job.
You're
hopefully
neutral.
Nobody from work is watching this.
They're like, huh? Like HR is just like, can you explain this clip right here? It's like, you must show us your dedication to the job. It's like by working 12 hours a day for the rest of the year. It's
Anyway, I don't mind what I do. I think I've been doing it for such a long time, that like 3 years, that I don't feel that I have to put mental effort into it, and so it's just very easy. I get paid fairly now, and I'm just comfortable, which is a dangerous position to be in, because that just makes you feel that you can just drag it on.
It makes you complacent.
Correct. And I think that's not a good thing.
Right. Well, like kind of speaking to the other side of things, like the non like internet entrepreneurship side. I know you wanted to pursue a PhD at one point, right? So, it's always interesting because being the sons of immigrants, like they're always harping on us about education.
Education is
right.
Everything.
Like, like get educated. Yeah. Like get your master's, get your PhD, get whatever. Get as much education as you can get. Yeah. And that'll be the path to more money. But I think as you found out, that's not necessarily the case.
No. Yeah, I mean, it came to a point where I questioned it with like, why am I doing this? And I mean, that's also why I quit, because it was like, I need to answer that question. It's like, why am I doing this? And I went to a company where in my head, it would have helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if I had liked it, yeah, it would have helped me a lot because they had pretty much like an open ground to like, hey, if you come up with an idea, just do it. We'll give you the money, we'll fund it, and we'll give you the materials, everything that you need. So yeah, if you have an idea for it, I would have thrived in that company.
Right.
However, I think ideas are born from the love of something that you like. From the thing that you love. And I realized that I'm like, yeah, I don't love this because it really did involve you reading articles every day. If you wanted to keep up with the technology, with the science, you had to like read papers, you had to like be involved in communities, you had to like talk to people. And I was just like, I could not give less of a shit for this stuff. And I was like, I can't. And then it was just like, I guess I'm not pursuing it for me. I was pursuing it for,
just for
my parents,
for the sake of it, for just because that's what you've been told to do.
Correct.
Right.
And that's when this whole thing started. But yeah.
Right. And so here we are today. I mean, as we've said before, we haven't been the most consistent to date, but I can say with 100% certainty that everything we've done, I've enjoyed thoroughly. And I know you've also decided to not necessarily opened up yet, because it's not necessarily a full business yet, but you've started kind of your own freelance photography. I'm not so sure if I should call it business, but kind of like service for now.
Yeah,
I guess.
Like a service or agency or whatever. Yeah.
And like we can kind of go back to, and this kind of goes into what you were saying earlier, passion, right? I know you love photography, I know you love anime, and that's why we have both this podcast and your photography business.
Yeah. I think, and going back a little bit on the accessibility to the podcast, when we started, did I have the camera? I had another one, right? I don't remember.
Was it this one, or was it?
I don't think it was.
It was an older one.
I think it was an older one.
Right.
But I think back then I already had a camera, so it was more of like, oh cool, like we have the camera, and then cool, we just need to get microphones because audio is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then now you see us upgraded microphones now. Yeah. Without making a cent of this, by the way.
It's all about the investment.
The investment, yeah.
We have to invest into the infrastructure. Yeah. That's how I like to put it.
Yeah.
That's what I like to tell myself as I cry over my credit card bills.
Yeah, but it's an investment.
I mean, I can say for certain that I use this mic on a daily basis.
Cool.
For example, for whenever I'm talking over Discord with my friends, they always tell me, it's like, hey, like, what mic do you use? And then I tell them, oh, it's the Shure SM7B. And then they're like, you're fucking crazy. You actually
why
paid.
Do you need this?
Why do you need a $400 mic? And then, but then I kind of switched back to the previous mics we used. And I mean, the difference, okay, I'll just keep it simple. The difference is palpable. Like, even though we spend money on this gear, like, to me, like, the difference in audio is pretty clear. Yeah. And also, I think we also went into this thinking, hey, if we want to have guests, thanks COVID for not letting us have a guest. Yeah. Like, we obviously needed additional mics. Yeah. But,
yeah, and it's also a little, I think Kevin and I have a little bit of perfectionist thing. It has to be good, because to me, the other microphones were kind of annoying because they would make noise. Like, the other arm would make noise, and then we were just like, fuck it, let's just buy the best that we can for now, and that's what we did. Same thing with the camera. The camera is upgraded now. It's not the best I could get, but I just figured I would just go step by step. But yeah, going back to the photography business that I'm trying to start it. Okay.
Yeah. hey,
because
it's a step.
It's a step,
Mhm.
yeah. I have a website, and so far it is just me trying to. I do feel it's like mud, like swimming through mud. Because
Mhm.
one, I cannot see where the heck I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and I'm just pretty much following like a conglomeration of advice that I have gathered from YouTube.
Mm.
Like, hey, do this, blah, blah, blah. Chris Howe, Peter
Mhm.
McKinnon,
Yeah.
even PewDiePie. I think I take a lot of advice from PewDiePie. It's like
You
big
know,
influence.
if you had said that maybe a couple years ago, people would have laughed at you.
Yeah, but I mean, look at the man.
Right.
He's
But look
been
at
on
him, though.
YouTube
Yeah.
10 years
And
and
just-
posting every single day.
I think, does he still have the most subscribers?
Yeah,
And-
he has 107 million subscribers now.
Oof, damn, that's
And I think that, I mean, it's T-Series.
oh, T-Series.
But that's where the meme came from. But T-Series is a freaking conglomerate. It's not like, it's not like one guy.
Yeah,
like
and they have the backing of an entire country.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Anyway, but that's what I mean. It's like you take the motivation from these people because they have been through it and they have fought their way through all this time and all these years, you know, and that is very inspirational. But anyway, that is what I've done so far. Yeah, so far I just like the aesthetic of photography. I think that's just one of my things, that I like attention to detail and aesthetic. And then having an idea and putting it on something physical. And that I guess I found the channel through which I can put that out, which is photography or making videos. I think when we made this kit, that was really fun because it was like, yo, let's make this the storyboard. And it is like just the whole process of how it started in your brain, like an idea, like something that didn't exist, and then you just manifest it.
The creative juices flowing out, like actually, you know, like making something happen.
And then making something physical.
It's like,
like that's really cool.
It's like all up to you as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, it's all up to you. It's like without the actual execution, then nothing happens.
Right.
You know?
It's like obviously that you can follow a framework, but you make the blueprint at the end of the day.
Correct.
You know, but then obviously at work, it's like, do this, this, and this, and go home.
Yeah. I think that's fucking sad, man.
Yeah.
Like if I begin to imagine working 9 to 5 every day for the rest of my life until I retire, I'm like,
no.
There's no way, man. There's no way I can do that.
But what's your price though? What if you're paid to do this current mundane job, but for like fat stacks of money?
See, I don't know. I'm torn on that question, even with myself, because like I'm thinking the whole reason why I'm doing the whole photography thing is like, one, I like it, but also it is to make money. It is in some industries a very lucrative business. And I am going for that. I do want the money. But then you say that and it's like, do I even want the money or do I want the photography thing?
Right.
You know? Because if you tell me that, I'm still like, I would like a very large amount of money. It's like, I think I would be happy.
I mean, people always love to say money doesn't buy happiness. Like, oh, but it sure as hell facilitates your happiness. Like being able to feel secure knowing that, hey, I don't have to worry about paying my bills. Or it's like, hey, whenever I want something, just go and grab it, you know? But, you know, to your point, but that's the dream, right? To be able to do what you like while also making fat stacks of cash. And I guess that leads into the second part, which is what we've learned about making revenue through like these businesses or what we've started. You know, obviously we know about I think most people know about, say, Instagram or like social media ads, sponsorships. You know, big YouTubers are always, I mean, I'm sure everyone has seen like, hey, like Honey, you know,
or Squarespace.
Squarespace
is a big one. Yeah.
or like lttstore.com, you know. Like, I mean, Linus Tech Tips has their own store, like merchandise,
yeah.
you know. There's all these different avenues to be making money, but to be able to kind of leverage like what you need to leverage in order to make that money seems to be a matter of building up your brand and notoriety first.
Yeah. Which we were discussing a little bit before the podcast. It's like it requires one, like I think the consistency is like number one. That has to be baseline on whatever content that you make. And then there's being bold. I think a lot of the channels that we at least that we watch, like for example me, PewDiePie or Good Mythical Morning, there's countless examples where they just do some crazy shit, and it's just like if I was in their position, it would take a lot of my courage to do those things.
Right.
Like example you said, the mama bird from Good Mythical Morning. It's like, how would I put myself through that?
If we were still in college, lots of alcohol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or yeah. So it takes also a little bit of the aspect to entertain an audience, because I think at the end of the day, that is why you put yourself into YouTube, is because people watch you and they either seek entertainment or they seek to be educated. And you have to do either or.
Right. And to your point about to be educated, what I've seen is that whenever you have like a marketable skill, it definitely pays to be able to teach that to other people. You know, I know some people leverage that into charging money for classes. Like for example, you mentioned Jump Cut. I forgot what the name of it was, but I know some YouTubers like to advertise a website that shows.
Oh, it's Skillshare.
Skillshare. There you go. You know, Skillshare. So
we're not sponsored, by the way.
Not sponsored. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Like not even close. Maybe one day though.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that, you know, a lot of these people who have, you know, for example, Binging with Babish, he can cook. Let's not deny it. The man can cook. And, you know, being able to leverage that, you know, that skill, for example, and like kind of selling that, you know, for classes, you know, some would argue that you should be giving it to people for free. But like, if you're good at something, like you should be able to,
don't do it for free.
Don't do it for free. Yeah. Like, for example, I mentioned to you, like I had to take a class for work. We call it the Managerial Foundation Program. Obviously, I didn't pay for it because if I had to, I would have been like, absolutely not. Like, I'd rather just go get a master's. But this class was $4,000 per person. You know, so thankfully the company paid for it. But to me, that to me, like as I was sitting through this class, you know,
or they pay for it.
They pay for it,
like tax write-off.
But like as I was sitting through this class, you know, I was learning. Don't get me wrong, but I was sitting there and I was thinking, you're really charging $4,000 for this? Like, like this is information that, well, okay. It kind of goes back to what I mentioned to you earlier about like berry picking. Like perhaps the work that goes into producing this class is like the aggregate of preparing this class. And, you know, hiring an instructor is makes it so that you don't make quite as much even after you charge people for tuition. But either way, like, you know, if you have a skill and you're interested in teaching it and you know that you can teach well, and that's the important thing. I think you and I have had, you know, have more than a few people who can't actually teach, even though they're highly skilled, you know. But if you meet that criteria, then by all means, you know, share it and make money off it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and I think that was the whole premise of why I bought into JumpCut, because it was these two guys who pretty much, that's what they said. They said, we did this for 5 years straight, and we've pretty much were just teaching you what we learned. And in that way, I'm like, I appreciate that more. Because I, at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't regret spending the money. It was $1,000. And it was like lifetime access. So I was like, yeah, sure. And looking back, it's like they did teach me things that I would have never learned unless I had a mentor, or if I had, a very inspirational figure in my life. Because it's stuff like believe in yourself, like believe that you can be better every day, and that you can learn something new, and it doesn't require talent for you to just be good at something. You just need to like learn it. And then things like habit building. Like if you want to be consistent with YouTube, you need to be consistent in your life. You need to be disciplined in your life. Right. You wanna accomplish a goal, you need to like back engineer it and be like, okay, every day I'm gonna do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And every day just be better and better and better.
It's kind of like working out.
I think that's everywhere. It's a very universal keystone habit. That's what they call it. That it just cascades through other aspects of your life.
Building habits, essentially.
Yeah.
How do you feel about exclusive content? Like, for example, there's quite a few content creators who like to make content exclusive to their Patreon subscribers.
Or that's another revenue.
Right.
Avenue of revenue. Yeah.
Or like their YouTube members, which, as I mentioned earlier, like, I had no idea this was a thing until recently because of all the VTubers I've been watching. Don't fall down that rabbit hole, please. God forbid, OnlyFans.
Oh yeah.
That's truly some exclusive content right there. But I personally feel, I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about that. Because I want to support the content creator, but then just locking certain bits of content. I guess it's kind of a marketing technique in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, like if you don't buy in, you're totally missing out.
Yeah.
It's kind of preying on that fear of missing out feeling that people can have.
Yeah. At least to me, I don't care too much about it. Like for example, PewDiePie. Like I am a big fan of PewDiePie, but even to this day, I don't. For example, what is it? Scare PewDiePie, I think it's the Red series or
YouTube
whatever.
Red.
I don't care about it. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's cool that you have that, and it's like a good source of revenue for him, I guess. But as far as my personality goes, I don't care about this stuff that much. Right. I will have to be super into it to be like, yeah, let me buy the extra content. Especially from someone who has published like thousands of videos, and it's just like I'm never gonna run out of content.
Right,
like,
exactly. It's like I haven't even finished half of your catalog.
Yeah.
Let alone like watching all the exclusive stuff. Right. Yeah. And like, I mean, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I personally believe that if we were to ever get successful enough to even think about it, it's like I'd want to make content that everyone can enjoy. And if they want to support us one way or another, it's like I don't want to feel, I don't want to kind of force them into that decision. It's like, hey, you're going to miss out on this if you don't buy in,
No.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not ruthless enough of businessmen.
It has to be like extra, like extra stuff. Yeah. But I have no idea what that would be.
Like stuff that only people who...
OnlyFans. I'm kidding. No.
Just
no, I'm kidding.
Tune in next week. But to your point about extras, I feel like it has to be like behind the scenes stuff that most people wouldn't even give a shit about.
Yeah, I think it would be stuff like actual delving deeper into stuff like, hey, what camera do you use? How do you set it up? Like the exact settings for everything. Like stuff like actual tutorial kind of thing.
Right.
That's the only thing I can think of. But it's like,
which I've noticed.
There's
like,
so many tutorials out there too.
A lot of content creators just kind of say, "This is all the gear I use."
Yeah.
And
exactly. But they don't talk.
Right.
I did this. I did that. Hey, you need like, for example, fucking cloud lifter shit.
Yeah.
It's like, why did I have to buy that? I'm still complaining about that thing. But yeah, it's like you need it though. It's like, I wouldn't have known if you hadn't told me. You know?
Like, oh man. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Even when I was buying it, like the cloud lifter for our mics, I was thinking, like, do I really need this?
Yeah.
But I ended up just taking the better safe than sorry approach, because what I learned from my research was that if you don't have it and you don't have an expensive interface, then it's not going to be able to power this microphone, and your volume is going to sound lower than you really want. Yeah. And for a duo like us who want to do as little post processing as possible, that's important. Yeah. So that to me is like what justified the purchase for me, at least. Yeah. But it'll all pay for itself one day. When we get huge and big, and everyone knows who we are, and it's just like throwing money at us.
Show what I like.
Yeah. And then we wake up. Right. Yeah. So
I'll get deported and go back to El Salvador.
Hey, hopefully it won't be Trump's America soon. So yeah. But knowing all this, considering all that we've discussed, like I kind of want to go over some of the other, I guess, challenges, like some of the other things we've learned from our time making content so far, and like some of the research. Yeah. Right.
I do want to talk about the reason why we haven't been consistent. And it's not just, COVID and our job schedules and all that. It is about taking it seriously. Yeah. It's like, how seriously are you about your trade and your craft, that you're going to go out of your way to be like, hey, you have a party, this coming weekend. Parties, you shouldn't have parties right now. No. But just an example. And then you go like, sorry, I'm not going because I need to work on my thing. It's like, it has to be that important that for it to work. I think right now, because of what we just talked about, our jobs are like, they pay okay. It's like, I don't have a need to really worry about this right now. Right. And it doesn't occupy the forefront of my brain to like, go out of my way to make it work. So like right now, it's just a side thing.
Right. And I think because it's a side thing, you kind of just think, oh, I can work on it whenever. Right. You can just kind of be like, well, it's like, there's no real deadline. I can work on, I can just work on this when I'm done with everything else over the weekend. But then something else comes up on the weekend and you're like, oh crap. Like, but then you're like, oh, well, let me just keep pushing it back and back. And
then it never happens.
Yeah. Right. And then like sometimes it just doesn't happen. But I think, what was it? Oh man, I'm trying to remember. It's kind of, to your point about dedication and motivation. Yeah. What I learned from watching various YouTubers who've talked about the creative process that goes into, making a video. The hours are, even part-time, are absolutely stupid. Yeah. Like what I've learned is that if you want to try to be as consistent as possible, if you want to try to grind and build your audience and brand, you are basically not getting any sleep. And if that's important to someone, and granted, this is all balanced by the fact it's like, hey, we make our own schedule, considering this is still a part-time thing. Yeah. So it's trying to find that balance between not telling yourself I can work on this anytime, but also not getting 2 hours of sleep every night. Yeah. Right. So now if you do want to take the path of, I'm just going to grind the hell out of this content, then yeah, by all means, just be prepared to drink a lot of unhealthy energy drinks.
But I think that's like a commitment to abandon your current path. Yeah. It has to be something that you tell yourself that like biotech, that the industry that we work in, it's like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then you go, I need to leave this industry and then commit to be like, okay, in a year and some, or like actually put a deadline on July 2021. I need to quit. So like, how do you make that work? It's like, then you actually have to be like, oh shit, I need to take this seriously, because I don't want this other path that I'm in right now. I don't want it anymore. I think that has to be the trigger for, at least for this example, to work. Because it is like, how bad do you want it? It's like, do you see yourself making content for YouTube in the next years and making money out of it? Even if it's not if it's not as much as what you make right now.
$5.
$5 a day.
Yeah, McDonald's dollar menu. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it is like, are you going to pursue your dream or no?
It's trying to balance that safety net, with your passion. But that's the thing. Like, if only there was a more structured path to this whole thing, because I think this whole content creation, I guess, job or industry is still fairly new. It's only really, I think, I know it's like, because the thing is, biotech has been a thing for hundreds of years. Yeah. Like, this is like, it's like an established industry where it's like, we know what you need to do. You know how much you're going to get paid, all that, like everything is just structured, A, B, C, like the blocks. Yeah. Whereas when for content creators, so many of them took like so many different paths. Like, there's so many stories to be told here where either they started when they were a teenager, or they quit their job. They quit their job at like 30 and like made it big from there. Yeah. Like, so it's like, there's no blueprint. There's no blueprint at all. So essentially, you're almost like shooting into the dark.
Yeah. So, and I think I guess the last thing that I want to mention is that the lessons I've taken from Matt Diavela is that from his podcast, the Ground Up Show. Yeah. There's a lot of people. It is a very recurring theme of people coming to his show and saying that they started something from nothing. And it is that you sacrifice the safety and you sacrifice the structure to pursue the thing that you want, that you love. And there is no balance. Right. It is either you go for it or you don't. Because we only have so much time, right? Right. And we're only getting older here. And then once you process that thought, it is something that has to push you forward and make you decide whether or not you want to pursue it. But I mean, there is the truth of the cost of the inaction. Like, what is your future going to look like if you don't do anything about it? And then when you think about it, it's like, do I care about it or do I not?
It's like variation. You stick with your job now. You know what you're going to get. You pursue a career in content creation. Yeah. Well, the variation is either you become a millionaire or you become a hobo on the streets, So, and I think that creates like a layer of fear, because I think people by default kind of lean more towards safety, self-preservation, that kind of thing, rather than kind of taking that leap of faith instead. Now, obviously, you can, as we've talked about, you can have like you can have some safety nets, like the guy who had 90K saved up, just in case.
I think that has to be the balance.
Yeah, like that has to be that. Like, you can't just be like, I have $200, I'm gonna make it big someday. Like, no, like that. Those times are over. Like that's like as good a movie as Slumdog Millionaire was. Is this really gonna happen? Like, I think we kind of portray this false narrative that um, man, I feel like such a dick for saying that. but like we create this false narrative. It's like, oh, anyone can become a millionaire. It's like, no, no, you really can't. Like it takes a certain subset of people with like dedication, time, and even then they may not even make it. And I think that's the important lesson sometimes that content creators need to let people know is like they are quite literally the 1%. Like we can definitely, and I am more than willing to try to get up there. But it's also important to know that there is a chance of failure, and that's where the leap of faith concept comes in, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I think also part of it, that part of what stopped us from being more consistent was also kind of like second guessing our content, right? Because we did have some content that we kind of created, sort of,
Yeah.
but we kind of decided to, I guess, toss away, mainly because, for example, we had a vlog. We had a vlog of all the junk we got from Katsukan, from the artist alley, and
I don't know if I even have the footage for that still.
Might be somewhere deep. Like, what was it? Like and then like a dealer's room or something. Yeah. And and then we listened to it, and it's just like we don't sound passionate whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we ended up scrapping that. Yeah. And we have a few, and not only that, but we also have a few skits that we've talked about, but we haven't actually executed. Like the ideas were good in our heads.
Yeah.
But actually kind of executing them has been like the biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
That being said, we do have a couple that I feel like we definitely have the framework for.
Yeah.
And they'll be coming.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, right? Like, no, like the one I really want to do is the Eurocamp one.
The Eurocamp, yeah. Yeah, that one is pretty doable. Yeah.
Because it's very like, not to spoil too much, but it doesn't really take that much to film something outside.
Yeah.
And also to have like some sleeping bags.
Yeah.
And some fake candles. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Make your ass do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it is. The hardest part to this whole thing is just to get started.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So when we're operating a channel, do you think we're competing with other channels, or do you think we're only competing with ourselves?
I think that you have to look at it. You have to look at it that you're not comparing yourself to anyone else. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're competing with anyone right now because I don't see this type of content that much or anywhere for that matter.
Yeah.
I think as far as anime podcast goes, is the Trash Taste. But I mean, those dudes had the framework for them that they build themselves.
Yeah.
But that's the only one, which, I mean, I wouldn't say we're competing against that. There's
absolutely not.
Absolutely no comparison, which is why I'd say from the beginning not to compare ourselves to others. You have to do it because you like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I guess final question though.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to, if we were to get big someday, how do you think you deal with the fame?
I just ride my Aston Martin down the street to a convention, playing anime music. That's how I'm gonna deal with it.
True. Because we kind of touched on it briefly, but there are definitely some YouTubers who make it a point to not show their face.
Yeah.
For safety purposes. And we've kind of already put our faces and voices out there. So it's not hard to figure out who we are. And if you want to get creepy, like where we live and stuff like that. But but I think like kind of going through my research, that's definitely a pitfall. If you attract the wrong kind of people, or you attract the ire of people who don't really know their boundaries, I find that that is a very real danger, because getting doxxed is very much a thing. Having your information put out there for people to just kind of potentially harass you and in turn like harass your family. That I always go back to that one VTuber I mentioned that ended up going into retirement because she got doxxed. And the whole point of being a VTuber is that you're anonymous. Right. So the moment you get doxxed, and she got doxxed, and I think people were just like calling her home phone and like harassing her family and things like that, to the point where she was just like, well, okay, they call it graduating, but she retired. Maybe she'll come back someday, but but that's the thing. But that to me is like the biggest danger of like content creation. And I think that's one of the things I always keep in mind, is that, hey, we're doing this because we enjoy, but let's be very aware of the risks, right? So
just buy a gun.
Buy a gun. Let's buy. It's just like we're doing one of these podcasts one day. Someone busts in. We're like, all right. It's like pull out a gun from under the table. It's like, all right, get the hell out of here. Right. So, but
I think it's just being mindful of what you share. I think when you tell me that kind of stuff, if maybe something that she said was that triggered those people, or sometimes you get into controversial stuff, or I think it's just being mindful of what you share.
I would like to think that it's just not that difficult to not say shitty things.
Yeah.
Right?
Me too. Yeah.
But then you watch like some of the things that people say on the internet, and you're just like, from even some of our favorite content creators, like PewDiePie. Everyone knows about what did he say? Did he say the N-word, or did he like, okay. Like, I mean, it's like, I think most people would know, like, hey, let's not put that on the internet. If you're going to be shitty offline, or no, be shitty in private with like no one around you. Right. It's like, but then we're going into like the whole like persona thing, but no one gives a shit about that.
Yeah.
Right. But lessons learned. Right. So, I mean, all in all, to like kind of top this all off, let's see where we go from here. I mean, it's been a good year so far, barring COVID, but
except for COVID.
Yeah. Like, oh man, like just thinking back, I think our original plan, I think we mentioned it, right? Like Otakon, El Salvador. I was actually planning to travel a little more this year. Thinking like, oh yeah, now's the time. Well, maybe 2021 when there was a vaccine. But yes, once again, thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Subscribe and see you next time.